small videos, 2 short videos first. Have a seat and enjoy them. Oh yeah, once I'll introduce you though. I'll introduce you. So have a seat and then we'll. Well, if it's because we're going to do 2 short videos from Sweden and then you. Okay. Okay.
I can wait there.
Oh yes, of course you can wait there. Yeah, yeah. No, that's fine. Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think hopefully you're all refreshed and ready. We're ready for our afternoon session. Now, I think to set the scene, there was a suggestion that Beata Allen from Sweden had provided 2 short videos, very short videos on the bioeconomy that we're going to play just ahead of our speaker. So line them up before and we'll start this session is going to be bioeconomy focused with a few interventions from different people. But we'll start with the 2 short videos and then I'll introduce our speakers.
Hej, jag heter Mats Reinesson, Jatala. Vi levererar och producerar förnybar energi. Våra hus värmer vi upp med flis, sly från vår egen skog. Vårt mål med vår verksamhet är att bli helt fossilfria och även att producera vår energi till våra egna maskiner. Här i bakgrunden ser ni vindkraftverk. Vi har 4 vindkraftverk tillsammans med grannar. De här verken ger 6,3 gigawatt i snitt per verk år, vilket är en ganska bra produktion. Mina tips när det gäller vindkraft. Ja, idag är det faktiskt rätt investeringsläge. Vindkraftverken är billigare än någonsin att investera i. Även om certifikatpriserna är låga så klarar de sig på ett ganska lågt elpris.
Hej, jag heter Niklas Norberg. Vi använder oss av biobränsle och är på så sätt 100% fossilfria. Vårt närvärmeverk levererar värme till ungefär 70% av alla hushåll i Horads. Och vi producerar 4000 megawattimmar. Den största förändringen på miljön i byn har skett genom att du idag har en kontrollerad utsläppskälla från en biobränslepanna. Avgörande faktorn när man bygger ett närvärmeverk är att man har god tillgång på råvaran, det vill säga biobränsle från skogen.
Okay, thank you. I know that those were presented yesterday during the meeting, but just a little scene setter, an idea of case studies, and we said earlier, short videos, getting the message across nice and clearly just to set us up. So now I will invite Thomas Trapido to come and join us. Thomas is going to tell us from Estonia, and kind of a keynote for the afternoon to talk us through eco-communities in Estonia. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Right. Okay. Kas ma võin selle välja võtta? Hello, good afternoon. My name is Toomas Trapida, as it was mentioned, and I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad that I was invited to share my knowledge about eco-communities or eco-villages. So I will do it. Let's see. Works well. Mainly I will show you pictures, but first sort of definition. What are eco-communities or eco-villages? The first thing is that they are intentional communities. It means that there was or there is a group of people who have an idea what they want to do in their lives, and they come together and they start a community. They buy a place or buy some land and then they start their activities. So it is important that they are intentional. And another aspect that is worth stressing is that they strive to be very holistic communities. So the word eco is a bit deceptive, but there is no better word yet. These eco-villages, they want to be sustainable in 4 dimensions: socially, culturally, ecologically, economically. But in a way, it's better to talk about them as living laboratories or living labs. There is really lots and lots of invention going on in these villages, and on very many various levels. For example, in social inventions, of course, ecological, technical inventions. And as such, they are very valuable, and they can be good partners in rural life and even nationally. Anyway, and then the formal organization, it's called Gen Europe, Global Eco-Village Network, started in 1995, but there is a story that goes back to 60s, let's say, when the first such villages were established. So maybe you can find some villages in your countries. I took this slide from the internet, so this is not intentional to have this UK and Italy village there, but as they are there, they are there. So you can see from this picture that there are quite many of them, and I'm sure that not all of them are on this map. Not all of them are part of the organization, so they are very sort of spontaneous phenomenon. And as I have been part of this organization for more than 10 years, so I can say that there are, I don't know, I think thousands of them in Europe. Some examples. Findhorn from Scotland. This can be called as a mother of all eco-villages. I don't have time to go into the story, but if you meet someone who can tell it, it's really incredible. They started in 1962, and the circumstances were very, very weird. And but nowadays they are big village. I think about 1,000 people are living there, and they have a training center, and they are doing really, really great stuff. Davanhur, Italy, near Torino, also started in 70s, and nowadays they call themselves a federation, and I think about 600 people are living in this area, and there are even more people connected to it. They are very artistic. They have great underground temples. They have a school, a newspaper, workshops, whatever, cows, pigs, everything. So Davanhur is also one of the biggest in Europe. Sieben, Linden, Germany, in the Berlin area. They started in 90s. A group of young people came together and said that we want to live ecologically, and then they found the land and started living there. And why this building is on this picture is because it was 10 years ago when this picture was taken. This was at the time the biggest straw bale building in Europe. So one of their specialities is ecological building, and they are really good in it. Building with straw bale, clay, you name it, and also on a semi-industrial scale. Estonia. In Estonia, we have a very, I would say, thriving or active eco-village movement. As you have heard many times already, I heard it also in the morning that everyone Estonians say that when they start describing Estonia, the first or second sentence is that Estonia is a small country in terms of people, at least, population. And that's true. This means that we just, according to numbers, we cannot have thousands of eco-villages, but we have really many people who are part of the movement, I would say. But there are also communities. The biggest community is called Lilleoru. It means the flower of the Valley of Flowers. And it's about 25 kilometers from Tallinn, so you can visit it. It started in 1993 as basically as a yoga center, a very, very small one. They didn't have anything, but today they are a really big place. And this picture was taken in July this year when Lilleoru, and I can say also I'm not part of the community, I'm part of the Global Eco-Village Network Estonia. When we organized the All European Conference that takes part every year, Gen 2018, and there were 700 people there, so from all over Europe. So this shows again that the places like that have sort of real impact in the region. And this conference was organized with the support and cooperation with the local leader group. So it's just Lilleoru has had a really very good cooperation with both the municipality, Rae municipality, and also the leader group. So in some cases there have been some sort of tensions or misunderstandings, or what are these places about, and so on and so on. And I can say that in case of Lilleoru, the cooperation has been nearly perfect. So, and it's just wonderful. This picture also shows one important aspect of these eco-communities, that many of them function as training centers. As I said, that they have invented something, either it is, I don't know, yoga, or is it composting, compost toilets. For example, there is a community also in Germany called ZEG that does trainings on biochar. This is very much related to bioeconomy, isn't it? How you can alleviate climate change with putting char into the soil. As they are operating as training centers, they are bringing in quite a lot of people from either their countries or even internationally, and then generating income in the region. Then small footprint community. This is different in Estonia. It's about 170 kilometers from Tallinn, and young people started it 4 years ago, and very different one. But also they are operating as a small training center. I am organizing Gaia Academy courses there, and there are many other courses, and they want to develop their land as a permaculture demonstration area. Then Hobukooli Park, actually their project is over there. And then the initiator Sven is also on the picture. This is ecological building epicenter in Estonia, I would say, and also they have horses and doing hippotherapy and everything with horses. Also they have got support from various funds. Then Hundiallika Center that I am connected with. It's in southeast Estonia, nearly 300 kilometers near the Russian border. And also support from local leader action group. And I can show you buildings as it was and as it is. This I talked about. And shortly about potentials. I mentioned that eco-communities are functioning as training centers, they are living labs. One important thing is that and these communities, some of them have demonstrated that they can really reduce their ecological footprint. They have been measured by universities and there is significant reduction in their footprint, 30%, even 50% compared to the national average. So if there is a policy to do something about climate change, then I would say that at least some of the eco-villages have really something to offer. Very important aspect is that these communities, and I really know what I'm talking about, are really experts in community building, because you can imagine if let's say 20 or 30 or 40 persons come together and say that first that yes, let's start living together. So and there will be lots and lots of material to let's say process in between these people, and they really have good techniques how to build community. Also, it's a global network. It's a European network, as I mentioned, Gen Europe, and during the break I had a good talk here, and then luckily I recalled that, remembered that there is a network called ECOLIS, that is European network of networks uniting eco-communities, permaculture movement, global climate change organizations, and so on. So on the European level, there might be interesting cooperation points. Yes, I included this slide because I really believe, and I have experienced it, I have seen it, that these places have lots of vision. I'm not saying that all visions are good and worthwhile to implement, but to change something, you need a vision. And I would say, as Europe, sometimes I hear from the radio while driving my car, and from other places, Europe is a bit maybe lacking in vision. So these eco-communities maybe also can offer some good visioning exercises. And this is not said lightly, I really mean it. So, I don't know how much time I have, but I was asked to do a 15-minute presentation, so maybe you have some questions or some interesting feedback. Thank you.
What we can do is we have a number of speakers, and then what I'll do, Thomas, I'll invite you back onto the stage, and then perhaps instead of taking questions now, if you have questions for after all of our speakers, then you can come back and join us. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Which does bring me to our next speaker. So 3 different strands we have in this session, 3 different speakers, and then we'll have a quick panel session where you can ask some questions. So next I'm going to ask my colleague Flavio to join us. No? Alberto first. That's a different order than one on my sheet. That's okay. I'll ask Alberto Davino to join us first, and he'll introduce some of the EIP Agri activities on bioeconomy.
Okay. Thank you, David, and good afternoon to all of you. I shortly introduce myself because I've met some of you during the visits yesterday, today a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure that everybody's familiar with me. So my name is Alberto Davino. I work in DG Agri. I work in the unit which deals with the coordination of the EIP Agri network. So it's the sister unit of the ENRD unit. We not only deal with the EIP Agri network, we also deal with research policy. So we are basically managing the agricultural part of Horizon 2020. So we are in a good position to make the necessary links between research policy and the CAP. So I was asked to present you a little bit the activities which are in the pipeline of the EIP concerning the bioeconomy. If you allow me, I will take perhaps just the liberty to first say a couple of words about the context of the bioeconomy that we have today. So as you probably know, the EU has a bioeconomy strategy that was put forward in 2012. This bioeconomy strategy now has, has already a certain number of years. So this policy has been subject to a review last year. The Commission is now in the process of putting forward an updated bioeconomy strategy. So we are really very much in the final stage of this process. The strategy has still to come out, so it's not entirely clear, so there is no date yet, no sure date yet for this bioeconomy strategy, but what I can say is that certainly this strategy will have to have a much stronger focus on synergies. So synergies between what is done in the CAP and what is done in the research policy. On the one hand, and on the other hand, also certainly more synergies between what is made at EU level and what is made at national level or at regional level even. So I think someone this morning, when reporting about the visit, said about the discussion of yesterday, so this is important. Not everybody has a bioeconomy strategy. How to link it in a framework. I think the new EU bioeconomy strategy could somehow give impulse to a better coordination and synergy between policy and between the different levels. So that's what I wanted to say. I wanted also to mention that there will be a quite important high-level event on the bioeconomy, which will take place in Brussels, the 22nd of October. I'm not entirely sure about how the registration policy works, but I think there is probably a possibility to express some interest to participate. I think that there could be, this possibility. But I invite you perhaps to have a look at the website. You can easily Google it and you will find this. So, having had this, this bit more policy background about the bioeconomy, so I wanted to come a bit more closer to, let's see if I manage to get the mic. Okay. I wanted to come a little bit more specifically and telling you what is in the pipeline with the EIP. So if you were at the last NRN meeting in Prague, you probably had the chance to assist to the presentation of my colleague Fabio Cossu, who explained you in detail the working program of the EIP in 2018. So he has certainly explained you so that for this year, for this working program, so the EIP has decided to structure the program around 3 clusters. I don't want to go into detail. I just wanted to say one of the cluster is particularly related to the bioeconomy and to the circular economy, and it's the cluster which is called strengthening agricultural value chains within a circular decarbonized bioeconomy. So under this trend, we have basically foreseen a series of activity, a workshop, and 2 focus groups, which I will try to present you now. So the workshop is an event. It's not yet done. It's planned for the next February. We have already a date. It will take place the 6th and 7th February, and it will take place in Vilnius, so relatively close here. I mean, the concept of the workshop is not entirely fixed, so we are still in the process of thinking of what to put and how to shape this. In any case, the title is Opportunity for Farm Diversification in the Circular Bioeconomy. So it's clear the focus on the workshop will be particularly about the possibilities that the bioeconomy offers to farmers to diversify their activities, and so enhance their income, and particularly offer possibility for a risk management. So we have just tentatively some ideas. We have put them on paper, so very, very provisional. So we will deal, for example, with business models which are accessible for farmers to take the best advantage of the opportunities of the bioeconomy. We will talk about how the new technologies, digital technology, will perhaps give additional opportunities to reap the benefits of the bioeconomy. We will perhaps have a discussion about different farm types, and so the various possibilities for different type farms to exploit that. So this is the workshop in February. We have then 2 focus groups, which are, I mean, not so specifically related to the bioeconomy and to the circular economy, but they have anyway some points of contact. For example, we launched this year this focus group called New Feed for Pigs and Poultry. So it's about new opportunities to find alternative feeding stuffs. And I mean, the link that we see here also with the circular economy is try to find kind of new outlets for the production. For example, using more the residues of agricultural production and try to better valorize it by using them possibly as feed for livestock. So this focus group has already started. So we have had the first of the 2 meetings of the focus group, which took place in June last year, and which will, so of course, continue throughout this year and probably in the beginning of next year as well. And then another focus group about reducing food loss on the farms. So this is also similarly to the previous one. This is not, I mean, entirely a typical, you know, bioeconomy-related workshop, but still there are some points of contact. For example, I think among the scopes, the issues to be addressed by this focus group, for example, there is the issue of what to do with the production of food. We are speaking here of food loss, the food that does not have the necessary requirement to be marketed, you know, in the traditional channels as food, for food, and And so basically how to better valorize also this type of production, so in an optic of circular economy. So this is very shortly what we have for this year on the program. We have, of course, also not to forget what we had planned last year, and that is partly going on still. So we have, for example, for the working program 2017, so the one of last year, we have a focus group which is very, very pertinent to the bioeconomy, and which is dealing with the production and the use of renewable energy in the farm. And by renewable energy, we don't only mean like production of energy or fuels based on biomass, but all the ranges of possibilities that are open, like solar, wind energy, geothermal, and whatever. So it's really a group looking at a range of different opportunities for farmers. So we are trying to identify for each type, each source of possible production, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities of this, what are the bottlenecks in, for example, in sourcing the raw materials, and of course also very important to see what are the trade-off between the production of energy and the other type of production like food, feed, and whatever. And also we are looking in this focus group at also some interesting possibility, like I think it was also mentioned, it came out during the visits yesterday, what are the opportunities for kind of collaborative models between farmers, like neighboring farmers that are close together, and they can have opportunities like to set up a kind of collective schemes for the joint production or the joint sales of this energy produced in the farm. So this focus group, since it was launched last year, is clearly more advanced. We have had already the first and the second meeting of this focus group. We are in the process of finalizing the final report, which is, I don't know, due probably in the next few months. And finally, okay, we don't have to forget the activity that has been carried out in the last years by the EIP. We have arranged, it would be very difficult to mention all the things. We have had, for example, a focus group on circular horticulture. So, but probably the most relevant activities were two workshops that were held in 2015, and for which we have the leaflets here. This opportunities for agriculture and forestry in the circular economy, and building new biomass supply chains for the bioeconomy, for bio-based economy. So, of course, a lot was done, a lot will be done for sure. It's a topic which is still high in our priorities in the EIP. And I mean, I cannot go, of course, very much into detail, but I invite you perhaps to have a check at the EIP Agri website. You have, I mean, the address mentioned here, or, well, it's the EIP Agri. I'm sure you are very familiar with it. So I think you can find a lot of interesting information about past and ongoing activities. So this was just a rapid overview on the EIP. Thanks.
Okay, and as I prefer the slightly less formal setting of being down here and leave the stage to more illustrious speakers, I will ask my colleagues now, I'll get the order right this time, my fault for not checking, Laura and Flavio, if they will take the stage and present the ENRD contact point activities on the bioeconomy that are starting now.
Great. So thank you very much, David. And indeed, there was a very good reason for having Alberto presenting before us, because not only because he very nicely presented the policy context, but also because we want to make sure that we are indeed working in synergy with the work of the EAP Agri, and you have been mentioning the synergy, the importance of the synergy, and we are going to explain also what is the additional part of the work that we are trying to do with our thematic group that we have just launched. I think it's fixed by now.
I think
right,
we can
good.
hear you.
That's right. So in fact, this is a perfect opportunity to introduce the work of the thematic group. Yesterday we saw really good examples in a way related to bioeconomy projects, and we took good stock of those, and that's what we are going to do in this year and until next June. We will take really examples across Europe. We will investigate faster on the topic. So thanks for this opportunity also to the Estonian NRN. The contact point just launched a new thematic group on mainstreaming the bioeconomy. This is a work that comes under our overarching priority on greening the rural economy, so linked to Rural Development Priority 4, Priority 5, enhancing ecosystem, preserving ecosystems, and resource efficiency. It's in continuity with the work we have been doing in the past years on resource efficiency, on sustainable management practices for soil and water. In the past years, and we are extremely happy to see that we managed to bring together a really a broad variety of stakeholders, and there is a huge interest in such an activity. We have to date 150 members who signed up to actively be involved in the work of this new thematic group. Representing 25 member states, so 3 are missing. I'm not going to mention who, but the Czechs are over there. Yes, we will get to you, and we really want to try to involve all of you and try to see what is going on in the different member states, not only at the level of the policy context, but also on the ground. What are the projects which are out there? You might not have a strategy, but there might be really good projects going on which are relevant to this, and we want to try to collect those. So we do have, as I said, a variety of stakeholders, paying agency, managing authorities, research institute. You see all of them up there, and we will be working for this year for sure until next June, and we will then see what will come next about it. Just let me tell you, this morning, Juliana, our colleague from the Commission, recalled the reason why we will be working on mainstreaming the bioeconomy. And this is because there is indeed a regained emphasis on the topic due to the process that also Alberto recalled of a revision of the EU strategies, the 2012 EU strategies, and also because this is directly, for the first time, is explicitly mentioned, also has been mentioned in the Commission communication on the future CAP, released back in November 2017. So I suspect it's going to become extremely important also in the planning of the future structure of the common agricultural policy. So this is extremely timely exercise that we are doing now to collect the best practices across Europe and to see how the RDP can actually be supporting more the development of a bio-based business models in rural areas. As I said, also because we are responding to a huge interest of stakeholders across Europe, and also because due to, well, further innovation in technology, in science, and also better awareness of the general public, there is indeed more and more scope for opportunities bio-based and to further develop bioeconomy and to make it better contribute to preserving ecosystem and to generating opportunities for employment in rural areas. The main objectives and the focuses of the thematic group, this is a process that will be stakeholders driven. So we did set the main objective. And coming back to what we were saying before in terms of synergies with the work of the EAP Agri, we will be focusing on encouraging the development of value chains, bio-based value chains in rural areas, and how, and we will try to investigate how value chains can generate opportunities for employment, for social inclusion, and how they can support the development of our rural areas. The work of EAP Agri is rather focused on primary agricultural production, and while in here we're going to explore also all other opportunities in terms also of services. So, right, and in order to do so, to achieve this ultimate purpose, we will be looking also at how the RDP can actually be supporting the development of bioeconomy in rural areas. And I'm going to hand over to Laura, who will guide us through the envisaged activities of the group. Of course, as I said, it's stakeholder-driven, so these are some proposals that will be confirmed by the participants to our meetings, and the first meeting will be on 9th of October, and you're still all invited to join and to contribute to it, so please do approach us in case you haven't registered and you do have an interest in doing so. Thanks.
Thank you, Flavio. I take the opportunity to presenting myself once more because I just recently started at the NRD contact point. So my name is Laura Jalasjoki. Nice to meet you all. So now to the how, the activities of the thematic group. We will be doing analytic work, part of which we have already started actually. We are doing some scoping work in the beginning of the thematic group just to set the scene, to see what is going on in different parts of Europe, in different countries. This work will very soon be finalized and circulated. Then the further analytical work will depend on these subtopics that will be defined by the participants to the thematic group themselves. So actually we are not even as far as EIP Agri in defining the possible scope of or focus of the activities, but we are listening to the interest. So the thematic group will have 3 physical meetings throughout the year. The first one will take place in Brussels on October 9th, and the second and third one probably in January and in April 2019. The first meeting will be crucial in defining a bit more what the thematic group will be doing. Between the meetings, we would like to animate this big group of interested people who want to be involved in one way or another, but maybe cannot participate in person in the meetings. So we are looking into the possibility of organizing, for example, 2 Twitter chats. Actually, today I've heard about other possible ways of animating people around different thematics, so we may look into it. But the idea is that everybody who has signed up as an interested member to the thematic group has possibility to learn about what the group is doing and to contribute. And for this end also we'll organize 2 video conferences that may have a completely different composition than the participation into the physical meetings, and that can also then have a much more focused topic. We will do the inventory of case studies that Flavio also already referred to. And we will start a web portal, a website under the ENRD contact point internet page, where we will concentrate all the materials that the thematic group will produce, but also links to other platforms. There are many that exist. And we try to gather all relevant information for the thematic group under this portal. We will produce a video towards the end of the year, and then we will close with the seminar in June 2019. Then, as regards the main outcomes, the idea is that we would come up with a set of recommendations linking the development of bioeconomy value chains to the use of different rural development program measures. And we'll have the inventory of case studies. Then also this thematic will be reflected in the different ENRD publications, such as the Rural Review and the projects brochure. We will have the web portal and the video finally. And here just a visual memory for you about the different ENRD contact point publications. So we will probably have a lot of questions on this one, but that will be the next step, I guess. Thanks.
Now, this is where I'm not quite sure what to do. Whether to ask you to come up and join me, or to, yeah, why not have a seat just now? Have a seat. And just, if we have any questions, I'm probably going to keep it relatively informal, but if you have any questions for articulation to Thomas, to Alberto, to Flavio or Laura, now is your chance to speak. There's a question at the back, so I'm going to thank you for Pilar to... It's okay, we'll get the microphone to you. Okay. Yeah. Yes. I'll have it now. Pilar, can I ask you to take the microphone to the back? Feel free to come and join us. We're going to have a quick feedback session. Alberto, also, if you want to join us, that's fine. Depending on the
Thank you. So
Please.
I have a little question. Yes, okay, it works. A little question on the links and the articulation, yes, between the different groups which work on bioeconomy at the Brussels level. You know that the Standing Committee for Agriculture Research has already a thematic group on bioeconomy. So, which the agenda is to address the strategy, European strategy on bioeconomy. So, maybe if you can explain the articulation between the SCAR group and the thematic group of ENRD, would be precious for me to catch the good expert and person in my country.
Okay, and I think I know who to ask this question to. I think my colleagues Flavio and Laura can answer that.
Thanks for the good question. Indeed, there are many platforms and working groups on bioeconomy. Many of them are on research, actually, and we will build the work of the ENRD thematic group as much as possible on the results of the research and the work that has already been done. We also try to ensure that we have participants in the thematic group from these different platforms, or people who are aware of the other ongoing work. And for me, the added value of what we can do is to see how to link the results of research on bioeconomy into real life cases of rural development projects.
And indeed, as Laura said before, we are still in a scoping phase. So obviously we are announcing the launching of the thematic. It has been launched. We are announcing the initial phase of the thematic group. We are now indeed in contact also with colleagues from the JRC and any other who is working actively on the topic to try to to create a synergy between the whole work, avoiding duplication, because that's not what we want to do, of course.
You can also add a word. Of course, SCAR is dealing, with research activities. So, this is also very much part of the EIP Agri nature. Let's remember that the EIP Agri was also created to provide the link between a research policy and the CAP. So we are basically. My service is in charge of building these bridges. It's clear that every policy has its own work stream, has its own groups, and but in the end, what we are doing, it's basically our work also to take into account what comes out with these groups. Because we are, we are in the process of creating the synergies. So we are somehow to take into account of the particularities of every policy, so which has its own groups and so on. But then what is more important is not only, avoided duplication in the groups, which somehow will run in parallel, but also it's mainly about distilling the expertise and the input of these groups to come into something, a strategy which is solid and which is consistent and takes into consideration all the outcomes of these groups.
Okay, thank you. Still a little bit of time for any further questions. Ava, and Veronica's behind you with the microphone. And please let me, we'll treat it as a panel session, so let me know your questions too, Ava, if you don't mind.
I have a question to Thomas Trapido, and also some thoughts that eco-communities, it sounds like paradise for leader groups or any other communities where they are living with one. But okay, this was a joke part, but actually we are talking also about how we differ these eco-communities, that this is like one, not one. We are talking about how our rural areas are aging, and also that we have lots of aging old people, and they have quite a lot of thoughts also that they want to live together, support each other, not to go to care house as much as possible. Is it also part of your ideas that, because this is we're talking lots about? Thank you.
Thanks. Well, as I mentioned, some of the communities started already in 60s and 70s, so it means that they have already this issue on the table, so to say, how to age together. And the communities are different, but by definition, as you said yourself, they want to support each other, and they have paid attention to creating comfortable, let's say, space for people for members to grow old in these communities. So yes, this is one intention, that they want to cover the whole, what's it called, the whole cycle of life, from cradle to grave, so to say. Yeah. So actually, just a very short, I forgot to ask, just I'm curious, please raise your hands if you know an eco-village in your country. Good, thanks.
Yeah, I should have said, I know the Findhorn Foundation extremely well. I spent New Year in the Millennium there, and they're quite a dynamic group. And they have to be dynamic. Revel Lambert said at the beginning that Estonia has 4 distinct seasons. Scotland has 2, winter and June. Now, any final questions? I think we'll, for the panel? No. Yes, Michael. Veronica's behind you again.
It isn't a question, it's just a clarification. I feel I'm being the one who's saying not everything is agreed yet. We absolutely have quite firmly in mind, as colleagues have said, about a video. Earlier this year, we did a video for the Smart Villages thematic work, which has been very well received and certainly has been asked for a lot. So we have in mind to do a video for the thematic group promoting bioeconomy, or the thematic group's take on bioeconomy. We want to do it, I think we will do it, but it's not an absolute guarantee. So also I think some of the other information and thoughts today, like 3 minutes is too long, keep it 45 seconds, is useful in thinking about what's the best communication way of using video material.
And Alistair, Veronica, if you can make your way to the middle. Yeah.
So, quick question for ENRD colleagues. You had a slide up there that talked about outcomes. They looked more like outputs. Can you maybe offer some clarification on what outcomes you envisage from the group, or is that something that still needs to be pinned down as part of the process?
It's it's about, again, first of all, always the forward. So we will see, especially on the occasion following up the first meeting, we will then have more clear directions of where we will be going, because then we expect participants to validate the work plan that we will propose, and then we will also see if there is an interest to investigate on some specific sub-themes of the bioeconomy value chains in rural areas. Then the difficulties will be, talking about value chains, to actually bring together different actors and work together to create on a chain, on the development of a chain. And we will try to explore what is already there on the ground in different member states, and what is it mentioned in that respect in the strategies at policy level in different member states. So at the end, the set of recommendations will be really pretty much about how you can play with the rural development programs to try to encourage the development of such chain. And yeah, we will be looking at the current programming period, obviously, but then it will be also useful recommendation and inputs for the future, because expectedly that there will be more and more space for that kind of. So the difficulty is really to bring actors together, not reasoning on a single project, but creating a value chain.
Okay, thank you. Any other points of clarification? Well, in which case, thank you to my esteemed panel for this afternoon. I think we've had quite a nice overview of bioeconomy and the different approaches to it, but I think most valuably how these intersect but talk to each other. So thank you to you all and from all of us. So that should bring us then on to, I suppose, what you'd call the looking forward part of this afternoon's session. I'm going to ask James to come up next, because we're looking at our further activities. I know we've been talking a lot today about what we're doing next, but James is going to talk about the proposal that we've had, because we're here at the 12th NRN meeting, and of course as soon as we have the 12th NRN meeting, we need to think about the 13th NRN meeting.
Perfect. So, thanks, David, for that. So, look, we're delighted to say that Ireland is going to host a next NRN's meeting. So, I'm just going to we're at the very early stages now, so we don't have that much detail. So, I'll just give you a quick overrun of our basic ideas so far. So, where and when? We're hoping that we're going to have the meeting on the 21st and 22nd of February. In Athlone, which is the heart of Ireland, as it's known, so dead in the centre. It's about an hour from Dublin Airport by train or by bus, and it's on the River Shannon, as you can see here. So that's the nicest picture that I could get. I'm sure other people won't tell you it's that nice, but that's the nicest one I could find. So just a quick overview. The first day will be the meeting itself, and we're just in talks with David and his team now about the team and that, so we'll have details of that over the next coming weeks. So that's on the 21st, and the 22nd will be a field trip to the surrounding areas of the Midlands around Athlone. So loosely, at the moment, we are proposing a team of the rural environments schemes that are funded to have a benefit to the rural environment. So these are projects that have been funded through LEADER, whether it be renewable energy projects, tourism projects as well. It could be schemes, maybe actions the farmers have been taking on their farm to enhance it. Organics, things of that nature as well. There's also a number of operational groups in the area that deal with environmental issues, so if you can arrange it, we will try to get out to visit those as well. So look, as I said, we're in the very early stages of planning, so please keep in contact with us. Here's our website, our Facebook and our Twitter. And last of all, just before I go, this is last week we actually announced our Biodiversity Young Farmer of the Year. It's the first one that we've ever ran, so it was in partnership with the Macra Farmer, which is the Young Farmers Association of Ireland. This is our winner, Raymond Langan from the west coast of Ireland in Mayo. So he's a sheep farmer, and as you can see, he comes from a very remote area, actually on the right on the coast. So we're hoping that he will be available to come talk to you and the actions that he takes on his farm, such as, you know, he plants hedgerows and things like that, beehives, bat boxes, etc. So there's some of the actions, so hoping that he'll be available to come talk to us as well. So we look forward to seeing you all in Ireland and confirm the details in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Cheers. Thanks, David.
Yeah, as we said, it's just at the early stages of preparation, but we obviously keep looking forward, and James has done a perfectly good job of explaining to us what the plans are in terms of Ireland and our next meeting. So that brings us on to other forthcoming activities, and one of the things that we haven't had the chance to explain today, but we've been in discussion about for quite some considerable time, is something that we now have decided that we will progress. When I say we, we've had an ongoing discussion on good practices and what we want to do with them. We discussed it in Cyprus last year at the NRN meeting, and following dialogue across the NRNs, we have decided we will be progressing with a good practice competition for the next year. Now, this will not come as a surprise to any of you. Can I just say if this is, just to get a consensus around the room, everyone is aware of what we're trying to do with the good practice competition? I'm getting enough nods to say, what we've been looking at, what we started looking at in Cyprus last year, was something that would increase the visibility of rural development and the EFRD, promote knowledge transfer networking, to assist the NRN's work. This is something that's happening in a number of your NRNs already. We know that there are good practice competitions across a number of the NRNs. And having been speaking in constant dialogue, last year in Cyprus, you said not quite yet because we haven't got enough, but in dialogue over the summer and recently, we're realizing, yes, there's enough groundswell there for us to progress this. So, what do we want to do? To support you in collecting, disseminating, promoting, and sharing the good practices. Because that's something we want to do. Is there a natural point at which we should do that? Well, we think that April 11th and 12th next year, where there's a gathering of 450 of you, is a good culmination of what we want to do. Trouble is with that, that means we'll need to get ourselves organised, which is why, to a certain extent, having said, let's have the discussion, we need to finish that discussion and say, let's move on and bring these good practices together. It will contribute to the networking conference, or more than a conference as we're beginning to describe it, and to having an awards ceremony at some point during the 2 days, 11th and 12th of April. We've got proposed categories. This is where we know in the next few weeks, and it will have to be the next few weeks, having been speaking to you, we've got we've had your input to say that we will want to go out to a few NRNs as a grouping, not as a representative grouping, to feed into us where you think the categories can go and how we might refine those, define those. We've tried to be broad. These are in line with our overall objectives, and they are proposed categories just now that we would put for the awards. One specifically for leader, one on rural revitalisation, which might include as examples, rural services, smart villages, ICT, how rural communities are revitalised. Social inclusion, we've been looking at for a number of years. We've been talking a lot about generational renewal recently, but we're thinking about the broader categories because we know there are initiatives in a number of countries. Environment and climate change, again, the more overarching heading of climate action and what we can do across our environmental objectives. Leader, especially focusing, and this is on feedback, on the leader approach and how that creates change in communities. Because of course, there may be leader projects that are valid across the other range. It's an approach rather than a category, if that may be said. And improving competitiveness, which is catching some of the other areas of farms, forests and other rural businesses, includes modernisation and resilience, food chain promotion and diversification. So that we can capture the wide range of projects that you have been gathering. How do we propose to do that? Up to 2 entries per category per NSU, which means that we're looking for you and your role in this to select what you think your best projects might be. This will be a competition. We know that competitions work quite well in generating interest, generating energy. What do we want from that? We want you to bring your projects forward. We want you to promote them. Ideally, maybe we want you to bring them, the project promoters, those people that are committing to an award ceremony where we can look at the final selection. We will need to have your involvement in selecting and in judging. So we will be coming back to you and saying, how do you be part of that panel? Bad news, you probably won't get to vote for your own country. But good news, we will want your input and your say so that we have a balanced judging panel. This is something we've been looking at for a while. Has linked back to what we were talking about at our innovation camp in Finland, has linked to what we're talking about in Cyprus. But it's bringing the ideas together into something which can get all the NRNs together. Sixth category, I didn't mention, popular vote. I'll go back one, there we are. Because what we do think we also want to do, and this is in the design stage at the moment, we want this category, but we want one where we can go out to people and say, which one do you like? Yes, we'll have a jury, but then we'll have a more open category. It might be in a combination of conference and just doing the beauty parade of saying, here's our best champion, let's vote for it, but something where people can get involved, because that's a good way of disseminating and promoting it. That's where our proposal is. The timeline necessarily will mean we'll have to work from here. And that's why I'm being relatively bold and saying we want to make this happen right now, and come with us if you can, because if we want to make it happen, we need to start now. Start working with you on the template, start working with you on the timeline, because realistically, we'll need to look at getting entries in by December this year in time for us to give enough time for the panel. So, I'm effectively putting my head in the line and saying, putting it out to you, what will the award criteria be? Tangible benefits. Tangible benefits in what can be shown to have a demonstrable effect. The potential for transferability. Very important, networking. Sharing those experiences and what we can bring to each other by an inspirational, you're going to hear that word quite a lot, an inspirational good practice that we can show across the networks, that can inspire others to try and do the same kind of thing. And also, a little bit in terms of, and these will be decided by the jury and in the selection, synergy with other EU policies as well, we think is a valuable. Putting it out there, these are our proposals. What do you think? Good, excellent, that's fine. Can I have a show of hands? Who thinks that this is something that they can take in a proposal that they can take back to their own country? I think that's good enough for me. We will, don't worry, this will be something we know we've got to consult with you, and we've got to go out with you very soon. Thank you for your input, and thank you for your participation, because here's where we start, and let's just make this happen from here on in. Thank you. Now, having done that, I'm now thinking what we need to do in the agenda, and that means that I have to hand over to my good colleague, Mike Gregory, for summing up. We're there. We are early, I know, but we're early partly because we know that we have to change around this venue to get it ready for tonight's activities. I don't know if, is Avi going to say anything about that? Not yet. Okay, not yet, fine, thank you.
Well, I honestly didn't see that one coming at this moment. And I'm just starting to write summing up notes, so as per usual, it's going to be unscripted. You've also left me with a little space as we're talking about the good practices competition. I was actually looking at you because you were so captivating. Did we have half the hands in the room, 3/4 of the hands in the room? Were there any I didn't actually see what sort of consensus we
I
got.
saw a large number of hands. I didn't actually see any non-hands, I must confess.
We didn't give them the opportunity, let's face it. I would just like to add to what David was saying, and I think because we have a little bit of time now, and that is what we're very cognizant of is that that there won't be a lot of spare time for this, but what we're aiming to do, and certainly is to have inspiring examples that the networks are proud of, and very much that can be, it's not, the idea is not to sort of have a whole new process and system in every member state from ground zero. We are now in in 2014, we're now in 2018. Now's the year when a lot of information, it's sort of the information on projects and initiatives is really maturing, the information that's available. And we know in quite a few member states, there's already been good practices competitions. I was having to exchange, I think, with Pavel at lunchtime, and there was, I can't remember the details, but 30 projects or project initiatives which are representing different things in Poland, where there's going to be some that are being put together. And so very, very consistent with what we want is if you've got if the networks have examples anyway, please put them forward. So that's something I think also would mean it would mean that the time pressure makes it doable. It's not just that it's aspirational. So I think that's why we sort of thought long and hard, and we think it is doable with that sort of approach. So it was that was a positive thing. So for a few words to sum up today. I could make the general comments about organised chaos and then say how much organisation and how much chaos, but I won't do that. I think the venue has spoken for itself and really put the way we've been working and exchanging with each other. I think we have been working and exchanging with each other in a slightly different way, and I think it has made a difference, and for me that's a good difference. It's all right, there's the sign language going on. Okay, yes, don't worry, Veronica. We're run by Veronica secretly nowadays in the contact point. She does this, she puts up little notices. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to embarrass you. Do not worry. Okay, and then so we have interacted in a different way, but if I'm going to sort of wrap up about today, we had an introduction, after the introduction, and a very good update on the RDP progress that's been made in the Rural Development Programme in Estonia. We're essentially have three main elements today. We've been looking at the NRN part of the NRN part of the ENRD website. We've been doing a collective brainstorming on the rural networking event, and we've been doing a lot of things in support to the bioeconomy. And so I think for the NRN part of the ENRD website, this was prompted by a flag to the contact point from various different sources that we think we can do better, because this is for the network support units, for the NRNs and for the managing authorities. And we've got a lot of good ideas. I know we have. NRNs inputting and updating their own data, sharing what the networks are doing, much more what they're doing currently, how that can be uploaded onto the website in a consistent manner, and quite a consensus across all of the groups on we need NRN input also with good practices on projects, and also not just NRN, but sort of methodologies of things that work well in the NRNs. and overall, more emphasis on sort of current valid information rather than historical information, and looking at things a bit broader as well. I think this thing about more audiovisual, more social media, shorter videos, other social media platforms than we're using at the moment, and that's something that for me is I don't know, people use this word takeaway. I'm not sure about that. I always have sort of horrors in mind about just things with lots and lots of grease and late night after drinking sessions as takeaways. I think for me, takeaway means we go away and we do some work and we plan it and we get on with it. And so in that sense, takeaways. So the contact point is our normal sort of supporting role of the NRD. We've already had some ideas on how we think we can further improve the NRN section of the website. This has been a big input with a lot more ideas now, so it's now up to us to sort of integrate those, see what's manageable and what's possible and when, because some of them have website functionality implications, sort out the, if you like, a new and revised planning, and certainly, as well as sort of discussing things with colleagues in the European Commission, would be keeping you informed, as I think Gaia volunteered earlier today. That's a big smile. Good, from you. So that was, I think, good and mission accomplished so far. Then we did this collective brainstorming on the rural network, or the proposed rural networking event, and I've got the advantage here. I can still see all the pieces behind us, and I'm particularly looking at the one that says conference with a nice little moat around it, and why use 5 elements when you can use 25 elements. I think it was successful, and I think that was a very compelling narrative that was developed for the whole event, that we probably, quite seriously, we need to catch and extract and not forget some of that, because it did make good sense. Also, some good ideas for the individual workshops, and I certainly took from that what's important here also is about the future of networking, because there will be a CAP, a Common Agricultural Policy Network, and that although that's not going to happen for some years, the thinking about it is already going to happen. And here it is sensitive, because the ENRD is about the current programming period, but we are also about supporting what people are working on now. So it's not suddenly a blue sky thing, and we're not a policy, we are absolutely not a policy advisory group, but within those constraints, I think that was important input, that it is important times and there will be important changes. So what we've learned for 10 years, that it will be we want to have the best chance of those learnings to be built in within the new policy framework, and that's something which can legitimately, I think, start. My personal view is can legitimately start at this. Can be done at this networking conference. And then also good ideas for the marketplace, despite me not quite understanding how we were meant to be doing the session, so anyway. So, and the takeaway from that, I think it was, let's not have traditional stands. You know, here's a table, here's a roof, and let's not do things that way. Some very, very good ideas, like what's the thing that each network is most proud of, even has been most proud of over the last 10 years. And then what I put down in my own notes is market people, not brochures. Market people, not brochures. And I think that captures a lot of what we were wanting to try and do, and make things to put them in reality, rather than perhaps how traditionally some years ago these things would have been done. And now, because I do take notice of colleagues that wave, I'm sorry, I can't resist this. So I'll say again, don't worry. good practices is part of it's part of that. I will get to that. So I think there's a lot of food for thought there. I don't even know how much food for thought there is. I think we need to digest it quite a lot in different ways. We'll be building in these ideas in our discussions with the Commission, and we will be getting back to you, to the network support units, I suspect, multiple times about different elements of the event, because it is a networking event, and to be a networking event, the NSUs, and broadly as you represent the NRNs, you have to be involved. It'll only be successful if you're involved in that process, the preparation of it, not just go to it at the, not just pitch up on the 11th and 12th. I think that it'll be set as a success before then. So I would expect quite a lot of communications on different topics, and but also give us a little bit of breathing space. I would ask for a couple of weeks or so, because it is quite a strategic thing, and it is something that's deemed to be very important as well in the with the European Commission, and it has policy implications. So it will take some time to discuss things, and also time for our for the Commission also to to work through how we can achieve all the good objectives. So watch this space. And then the third of the three things main three things that we've been doing today is bioeconomy in the broadest sense of the word. So it was very interesting and thoughtful examples that we had, and also discussions that we had in the travelling workshop yesterday. So a big thank you to the Estonian colleagues that have done a lot of hard work. It's always very easy to be a participant on these things and see the farms and benefit from it, but I know how much effort there is in organising all those things. It was a great perspective, thank you, on eco-communities, and I think it's really good that we make in these meetings that we always try and get somebody who's not just like one of our usual suspects. I think they're really important, and certainly I've found it quite thought-provoking. Why has that not been on our radar maybe as much as it should have, these eco-communities? So that was really useful. And then, of course, if you like, the more normal working patterns, both of the EIP Agri and of the forthcoming thematic group from the ENRD. And I think picking up a little bit slightly on one of the questions, this is actually an example of where the two networks are working very well together, because I think ecosystems has been a priority of EIP Agri for the year till now, and the NRD thematic work is going to benefit not only from other platforms and research things, as Laura was saying, but will benefit very much from the work that EIP Agri has been doing and will culminate in the beginning of February. And so I think this is how the networks should be working. And then also, as both Laura and Flavio were saying, if you had to characterize the thematic work of the NRD, we're looking more at our starting point is looking more at the value chains rather than actually on the farm. Not to be exclusive about that, but it fits quite quite well. So then David was saying, just finally, there's things about the future. I think we've covered nearly all of them. Most importantly, thank you for the heads up on the Irish forthcoming NRN event. And then I think there is one other thing which is linked to the future as well, but a bit more near future. So if I could ask if there was a microphone available to allow Veronica to also say one other future event.
Thanks a lot. And actually, yeah, my sign language was this GP workshop, because we have one more announcement about the upcoming activity. And this activity, or rather to say event, will be dedicated for you. So that's why it's important to announce it. So it will be it will be a workshop organized in Brussels on good practices. And the idea behind this is to provide you with space to exchange ideas how to collect good practices effectively, but also how to capitalize on good practices and also how to promote good practices effectively. So I think these 3 points are very important for work with good practices and for you in your NSUs. So that's why I wanted to share with you this. And please book the date 8th of November, which is Thursday. I hope you will be able to come, all of you, and your colleagues. And it is really smaller workshops dedicated for you. And not to forget, it will be, there will be also a possibility to discuss good practice competition and your potential entries. So it is not the main part of the workshop, but there will be this possibility. So it's a good opportunity to discuss your potential entries for the competition as well. So 8th of November, please book the date. Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot. And now, actually, that is the cue for any other forthcoming events. So this is sort of, please.
Hello. In this morning, I didn't have a chance to introduce myself. So I hope that in the evening, as we have 3 hours to stay and enjoy ourselves here, that some more people are approaching me to talk about the issues. Because I make letters coming from EIP Agri service point, and I have a small, not about the event, but I have just some announcements to make to you. So at this moment, I'm just sending to the managing authorities and also NRN people who are dealing with EIP issues a letter. And in this letter, we're asking you to update some information. We're asking also you to tell us if you have a dedicated space or website in your country about operational groups. And we're also introducing our work in terms of improving our websites, which will help you also to communicate with the managing authorities, with us as a service point, and which helps you also to do your work in terms of networking tools and the rest. So in these letters, you will see a bit of our work there. And in addition to that, we are also searching for good examples and inspirational ideas in terms of evaluating the innovation and operational groups. So if you have any good ideas, please contact me either this evening or just via email. So thank you.
Okay. In any other thought? Is that a stretch or a request? It's a request now. I wasn't quite sure at first.
Please, Alistair. Thank you.
So Scotland's hosting the third Scottish Rural Parliament in November this year. So yes, 14th to the 16th of November in Stranraer. The theme is taking action. It's building on an awful lot of work that's been happening in Scotland over the last year on various aspects of rural policy and rural economy. So if you're interested in coming along or participating in any way, just let me know.
Thank you, Alistair. Okay, so has everybody filled out already their evaluation forms, I wonder? Pilar, you can also hold things up, but this one's not aimed at me. So please don't forget to fill out the evaluation forms. That is important. And I was just trying to do some numbers by months, and I think we are in between six. We're a bit over 6 months before now the proposed networking conference. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So I think for me, all three of these elements that we've done today about improving the NRN part of the website, about brainstorming for the networking event, and the different, both EIP and ENRD initiatives on bioeconomy, they're all, they are actually more, they're things that are all driven by the networks. So I think that's really great that the input we've had from you all is, and it does mean that we need to be exchanging about them quite a lot, and it's going to be a very, very busy next 6 months, but busy is good. So I would now like to hand over to Juliana, firstly to both close this NRN meeting, and also I'd like to give Juliana, because she does it much better than me, the very important job of making those special thank yous, because it's for this NRN meeting. So Juliana, thanks.
Thank you, Mike. So I start with you. Yes, to conclude this meeting, I think it was a very good meeting. Very productive, lots of ideas, new elements to discuss, to think about. The venue, unusual, but I think it's great. We had space for move, for discuss, for eat, for doing everything here. And the new element, the music. Thank you for putting the music. Yes, I think it helped to have this informal working environment, and I think it helped us in our work. Thank you again to the Estonian NRN colleagues and SU for all the work done. Thank you to you, colleagues from the ENRD contact point, all the staff also there. I know that we were recorded all along the day, and so if you enjoy this meeting, you can see it again and enjoy it again. See you soon, because I hope you will all be here in some hours for the dinner and for the exhibition, poster exhibition. So, thank you again.
Of the NRN meeting, but I think we'll now hand over to Ava to explain what happens next.
Thank you all for coming, but this is not all. And we are waiting you back here, starting with 7. You have in your program that this event here starts 19:30, but we want to really start, so we ask you to come here at least some minutes, 10 minutes before that. For foreign guests, we will have translation. It's because this audience here will be, this exhibition here is not targeted to Estonian audience, but of course we are happy that we joined this event, though it's very eco community here as well. So, and what else? Yes, there is translation. We have some papers with translation of these headlines. We don't have yet very good proper translation of all these posters here, but we will do something soon and so on. Somebody asked me that there is like snack, that did we get something to eat? We have cold buffet, so I think you have enough eat. Near here is a petrol station for burgers if you really feel like hungry after that. And catering is coming from rural areas. We're trying as much as possible to do. I think they are in level. So, and also some drinks are offered here. So I hope to see you, let's say 7 o'clock here, and please do your duties and write some nice word to the evaluation form. So see you soon. Thank you.